All right, welcome to Two Roads Leadership live stream. Our special guest today is Mr. Rod Awina. He's a program manager for us here at Flatter. Actually, he's a senior program manager with several programs that he's operating. So we're going to talk about starting a program from scratch, which Rod and I have done a couple times together. And so we'll be together for the next 60 minutes or so, talking about your program management experiences. And what I want you to remember is you're talking to your peers. So let's bring up things that someone in your shoes would need to know. I know you're mentoring another program manager in our company. You lead several other program managers. So let's keep our comments focused on what our peers would need to know. So small businesses operating in the support services environment, either commercially or for the government. So with that said, I'll pass the torch over to you and let you introduce yourself and any thoughts you might have on being a program manager, getting your PMP, was it valuable to you, and anything else that comes to mind. So over to you, sir.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you for the opportunity. So my name is Rod Awina. I've been working with the company, with Flatter Incorporated, for several years now. And like I said, we did a lot of projects together, and a lot of those were starting a new program. Going back to 2008 in Iraq, where we established the EFT, Electronic Funds Transfer Assistance Center, EFTAC, and that was to support a policy to get the cash out of the battlefield. So it was a critical mission that they wanted to do, the Army and the military troops, to support also the country in Iraq to be able to handle the banking infrastructure and provide those capabilities to not only the military, but the Republic as well, so they can take the cash out of the battlefield and out of the terrorist hands and electronically trace all the transactions. So that was a new program, actually, from scratch, how to work with the local communities, with the banks, with the local authorities, the central bank in Iraq, and also with the military to how to manage this policy and make sure transition all the vendors from the cash culture, if you will, to the EFT or the banking systems. So the first thing I remember, we start thinking about what do we need to do exactly. Map all the areas, who the stakeholders are, who's going to be involved, and so we talked about the 5 W's and why we're doing this and what do we need to accomplish. So that was a lot of mapping and brainstorming and getting stuff together. Get the whiteboard and just literally map the stakeholders and map the policy and who we need to talk to. So that was a lot of just mind mapping and to figure out what exactly we need to do. So the first step is identify the requirements, look at the contract that we have, what the contract is telling us, and what the stakeholders are telling us, what the contracting office is telling us, what the program management office is telling us. So get all of those information and then start get going. So that's the first step, is to just identify the stakeholders, the requirements, and start thinking about how we're going to do the execution piece of it.
Yeah, I remember those days well. I think you and I had just met weeks before, perhaps, maybe at most a few months before. And our customer asked us to stand up this electronic funds transfer assistance center. And we were literally staring at a blank chalkboard or a blank whiteboard for people who might not be familiar with chalkboards nowadays. And I remember us sitting there in front of the computer just staring at each other like, okay, what now? And like you said, we just started cranking we knew, like any system, whatever we built was going to be a system. So there would be resources coming in, actions taking place, and value going out. So we started asking ourselves, what does the system look like? And I think that's the first time you and I ever talked about a stakeholder catalog. Remember that?
Yes.
We started building a stakeholder catalog to identify who they were, map them as to where they were in the system, and then meet them, go out and start building relationships with them. I think in those circumstances, what bogs people down perhaps is, first of all, the customer wouldn't give you the task unless they thought you were capable of figuring it out for them. So there's a classic book out there called The Message to Garcia, and it talks about a mission this young lieutenant was given. I think you've read it, right?
Yes.
This young lieutenant was given a mission to go find Garcia and give him a message. He had no idea where he was, who he was, what he looked like, how he was going to get there. But the message of the book is, if you're given a task, the person who gave it to you knows you don't know all that. And so asking them for more and more and more information is probably not your best bet. Take what you have, get it clarified a little bit, and then just go away and start cranking. What are your thoughts?
So you're absolutely right. So it's about trust. The trust that you have the history, you have that you can do it. You can figure it out. Nobody knows everything. So and we get new program requests, establish a new program every day, almost, I would say, about contracting. So they know, like you said, they know you don't have the complete knowledge, but they know that you can figure it out. You can acquire the knowledge you need. You can acquire the right team you need to build. You can acquire the capabilities you need so you can establish the program and get it going. And my thought, I know you, I trust you. I think it filters down all the way from the contracting office. They read the company history, they read the past performance, they read the well-written proposal, and they decide this is the company I want to award the contract to. And then it filters down from the CEO, the chairman, down to the program manager. So the CEO decides who can take this job, who can do it. So it filters down all the way for the program manager. Also, it's my job to, I trust my team. I know who can fit that. So this concept filters down all the way from the contracting office to every team member. So,
And I think you mentioned a minute ago about storyboarding. There's phases to this. Identifying the stakeholders is part of that, the early phases. But really, sketching out storyboards is a critical piece of this. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
So yes, storyboarding. We actually did a lot of this recently in the development programs or projects, I would say. So we would write the entire scenario so we can see what is the impact of the scenario or the story on the elements that connects to it, and also think about what this scenario would need, what connections that a scenario have. So it could be development, technology, it could be anything else. But what each story, there's a start and end, and this story would have involvement in the project or the program, and it will impact other elements and also get impacted by other elements. So you identify the story, you would see all the elements that getting interactions with this story, and what you need to do so you can accomplish the outcome from this story, and then reflect it into the program or the project, the piece of the project that will work in the requirement, basically.
I know you're also a program management professional. Did that have any factor in your success? Did you use some of those processes when you've been staring at a blank whiteboard and and asked to perform a new mission?
That, well, it's significant because it's, so you want to build a process, for example. You're looking at one piece, which is building a process, and we want to see what the input in the process is and the output for this particular process. And this is basically could be a storyboard. And that, for example, going back to the EFT assistance center, we thought that, you know, we're going to transition all the contractors from cash to use their bank accounts. So this is a broad story, but we want to talk about details now. The individual needs to open a bank account, and now what do we need to do so we can transfer the money there? And then what if there's a problem? What if the money is not showing in their bank account? So let's make some analysis to the banking industry there and the connections they have, the wiring. So let's see how we can build a story and make it a transaction to see how it works and what the impact. What if scenarios that didn't show up, where it could be stuck. So that's how the storyboard will give an insight to the processes, and it tells you what if scenarios, that what if there are problems in there, what the solutions could be for those problems. So it's very significant, and it shows more when you work on a technology project or program where the storyboard now is very significant in the development of the requirements, so you can identify each story, and then this will go all the way to the test cases as well. So these the test case, and that's what we've done in the EFT Assistance Center. That's what we're doing in every project that we're developing together.
So you're a successful program manager. You've been doing it for well over a decade now. What advice do you have for your peers to be a successful program manager?
So in relation to the establishing a new program, so there are some elements to look at the very beginning. Is this a brand new requirement, or is this have done before? Like establishing the EFT Assistance Center in Iraq was a brand new requirement. It's never done before, and so this will require think about innovation, think about a lot of analysis, a lot of storyboarding, a lot of if it's a program that have a requirement that existed somewhere else, now you're going to look at benchmarking, you look at lessons learned. So we have done this. So we took that particular program and implemented it in Afghanistan. We didn't have to do a lot of brainstorming from scratch, a lot of innovative ideas. We actually did have that already in our lessons learned. So we pulled lessons learned, look at benchmarking. You still need to fill some gaps with analysis because you're working in a different area. Similar program done before, but different areas. So you may have new requirements, you may have new differentiators into that particular situation. So you still have to fill those gaps in analysis and thinking. But a lot of benchmarking and lessons learned is like really a wealth of information. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, as we say. So these are at the very beginning stages. And now think about your team building. Each one of those scenarios require different teams. In the first scenario, you would require a team with a lot of innovation, innovative ideas. The second one, you need a team maybe with a lot of experience. So these are just examples, but building the program, building the team accordingly, building your plan, your execution plan. These initial thoughts drive all of those together all the way down. So this is one. And then the other thing is program management. Program management is mostly activity-based. You manage schedule, you manage milestones, you manage decisions. So these are all activities. While our contracts, normally we do business with the federal government, so we're driven by a contract, and a contract is a calendar driven, as opposed to the program is activity driven. And then you have the requirements. The requirements comes from users, from the warfighter. These are need driven. So you have the need driven requirement. You have a time driven or calendar driven contract, and then activity driven tasks and activities for the program. So integration is the crucial point what the program manager is. So what they can do is integrate all these pieces together, deliver the requirements within the contract scope and time, within the budget, and manage all of these activities and deliverables and the team. So integration is very important. That's what integration means. Integrate all these elements together to deliver the quality scope needed within the time and budget.
So I know also, in addition to being a program manager, you're also a leader of other program managers, which you know is one of my favorite subjects, leadership. Talk to me about your leadership philosophy and how to lead program managers to success.
Okay, thank you. So we learned a lot about leadership, especially Ladder Incorporated is very focused on leadership development. So I learned a lot about leadership and leadership style. And then over time, taking my education about leadership and knowledge and applying it to the everyday job, I learned that so there are leadership styles to use in different teams in different stages of the project. I thought it would be ideal to use different type of leadership styles. For example, we just starting a new program, and we have a new team, brand new team. So we need to establish a culture for the team, and that culture flows down from the company culture, and also the government PMO culture as well. So, and then you have requirements, you have schedules, you have a contract. We want to make sure everything is getting done and deliver immediate value for the customer to prove that we're on track and we're going to be successful. So the program manager in this stage needs to do a little bit more directive kind of leadership to lead the team and give them direction, make sure they task everybody and until the culture is established. And then, for example, I have some other programs, the JAX program with DLA. It's an established culture, established program. The team has been there for a while. We have a great relationship. So I'm not directive anymore in that program. The style I figured that is very, very successful is a supportive leadership. What that means is I want to make sure my team is successful. So supportive leadership makes sure that all the team, they have all what they need, certification, education, the time, everything they need to be successful to do their job. Because we passed through all the trust and the building the trust and building the culture, making sure everybody's doing their job. We passed through all of this. So the team is performing very well, excellent, and they know what they're doing. They know the requirements. So I want to make sure that they have all they need to be successful. And these needs are actually dynamics are changing. For example, we are transitioning to the Amazon cloud with our DLA contract, and that requires certain type of certification, security certification. So my job to make sure that they get what they need to get those certifications done, so they can do their job in the new environment. So that's the supportive leadership. So every stage of the project, every team requires a certain type of leadership throughout the life cycle of the project. So in my day, as a working on different programs, I had just a chat with one of my team members. We did attend a meeting in the morning. It was a different style because it's a new project, new program. So and then switch to the next meeting. That's my team that's been working with them for 6 years now. So everything's good. What you need, good to go. So it's different, and that's what is very important. It's the utilizing those styles in an appropriate situation.
So we chatted a little bit earlier about you're mentoring a program manager, what advice would you have for your peers that are trying to develop a program manager? They might have the technical skills, but they don't necessarily have the program management skills or the leadership skills. How do you go about developing those in someone?
So two areas. One is self-development. What books you can invest in yourself, get the certifications required, read about leadership, read about program management. That's self-development, and then get the mentorship or the education from the company. First of all, know your culture, your company culture, your client's culture. Learn about the stakeholders. Learn about the priorities. Program management is a lot of tracking, a lot of planning, making sure that your team have the everything they need to do their job. So, like I said earlier, it's integrating more than actually executing actual tasks. We still have tasks to do. So we all work for the contracts. We have our tasks in the contract, but but as a program manager, you want to make sure you have your leadership skills to work with the team. You have to look at your calendars every day, allow tracking, schedules, and then making sure you're not off tracking your rails outside the. So you always look at the scope, you always look at the priorities. So this is everyday task that you have to have a notebook of what I'm doing today, what I put I know my tasks, but I put them all every day in the morning, and then prioritize them. What do I need to deliver today, right now, in the next couple of hours? And then what I have to deliver today in general, and what to take for tomorrow. And prioritizing those daily tasks according to communication. How do you know this is a priority today and this is a priority for tomorrow? You have to communicate every day constantly with the clients, with the stakeholders. That's how you can have the sense of priority, because your sense of priority has to come from your client's sense of priority. Your sense of urgency has to be filtering down from the company, from the contract, and from the client. And so communication is crucial. Staying in touch with the client, not just because to stay in touch, but to learn about their changing dynamic priorities within the scope, of course. We're not getting out of the scope, but priorities could change, especially today's world. We have, going through a pandemic, and we support the warfighter. So I have a priority in 3 o'clock, but maybe 5 o'clock, I get an email from overseas that this is my priority now. So we're working with those guys overseas, and God bless them. They on the front line. And so this is actually my first priority of the day. The first hour, couple of hours, I go my emails to make sure I have anything that I could do for the frontline folks, and then switch over to the time zone here.
Yeah, you bring up several very relevant points to our conversation. And the first is planning. I tell people a lot, if you're constantly putting out brush fires, it's probably not circumstances. It's probably your plan's flawed, or you're not planning well enough. There's a classic saying that the plan never survives contact with the first challenge, and to a large extent that's true. But General Eisenhower said, the plan is useless, but planning is vital. Because, right, the plan goes out the window, but all the preparation that went into the planning still remains relevant. You still have all the resources, you still have all the rehearsals that you've done perhaps. So the plan might go out the window, but the planning still remains relevant. Another thing that you talk about is communication. We say a lot, when you finally get tired of hearing yourself say it, you're just beginning to say it enough. But then something you mentioned indirectly is your intent. So whether it's a small team or your broad team, you have very complex multi-program responsibilities. Even when you're not in the room, they know what to do because they know what you would do if you were there.
Mhm.
And talk to us a little bit about that.
So again, that goes back to the culture. How you establish a culture, a team of a performing team that knows not only the requirement they need to do, but also the culture of, like, we have a culture of quality, and we have a culture of communication. We have a culture of care. So uh, this takes some time, and as a program manager, I think part of establishing the culture is lead by example. For example, I'll give you a technical, like really detailed example where, if people communicate project team, if they communicate individually, I would change that culture to a group communication. So if somebody found a bug in the system and they two developers talk about it, the culture means a month later, when somebody found a bug, the entire team knows about it. So you change the culture of communication, how we communicate. A project team needs to be aware of everything. So I know now when I attend a different meeting and my team is working, if something needs to be communicated, they know I will be copied or told about it. So, and same, if a team member is not available and not in the meeting, and we talk about something important, I would, as a program manager, I would shoot an email to that team member and tell them, hey, we talked about this issue, and this is what's going on, just so that you know. So they are on, when they come back, when we get back together, we don't have to update people and go back, talk about history. So that part, the culture takes time, but the program manager needs to also utilize the lead by example, and then talk about it in general. And just talk about it, and we need to communicate, and I want everybody to be aware. If the lead by example is not working, depending. But most of people I've seen, when the leader takes a step, the team takes a couple of days, but they follow. So
Yeah, you said something a couple of times that's brilliant insight, and that is it takes time. As soon as you put on the leadership hat, you're rarely going to go in a straight line ever again. I think to my days back learning land navigation, and if you're on a mountaintop and you're looking at a mountaintop that you want to go to, a straight line to go down the valley and up the other mountain is probably not your best route. It's probably a more circuitous route. And that's in many ways, it takes time. You have to go those indirect routes to create a culture, to communicate, saying the same thing over and over and over, or sending the same email to a dozen different people is required as leadership. A manager would take that straight line and say, that's the shortest distance. But a leader would say, what's the path I take to get the achievement that I want? And it's rarely a straight line.
takes time, yeah, it takes time. Correct. That takes time because you're not dealing with a machine. You're dealing with people, and different people, and especially here in the United States, diversity is really, you get teams from different cultures, different backgrounds. So as to establish a project culture with a bigger team, you need the time to do this. Communicate the culture and practice the culture. And it takes time. And I've seen it a lot. People willing to work, willing to change. So it eventually happens. So it's a positive thing.
So one of the things we talk about a lot is the continuum between technical expert, cognitive analyst, and a emotionally intelligent leader. So there's certainly pluses and minuses to each one. And standing at this intersection of am I able to be a leader and am I willing to be a leader? Talk to us about being more technical or an analyst or a leader. What are some of the pros and cons of being the leader you are, or some of the members of your team? I talked to a new team member for Flatter this morning who's been around us for 12 years, 14 years. He's a technical subject matter expert, but for whatever reason, either his willingness to be a leader or he hasn't been able to get his head around it, what leadership takes. Talk to us about the differences between where you are and where you could be in that continuum.
Yeah, so you brought the point, the great point, which is the willingness and ability. My personal, I don't want to, but my personal thought, most of the people, if not all, if they're willing, they will gain the ability. Because the ability is
Right.
not to exist already. It's
Mm-hmm.
to gain. Education, experience, interaction with people. Leadership is about people. So the more you learn about people, the more you interact with people, the more you're getting closer to the ability piece of leadership. So it takes, again, it takes time, back to the time point, but also it takes experience and courage and, to get to the comfort zone of being able. Now, it goes to the other piece of it, which is the wellness. The wellness, I think this is a personal decision where I want to take a lead, I want to step in, I want to jump on this pole, or, I'm comfortable to what I'm doing. I've been doing it for a while. I have the ability to lead. I've been doing this for 20 years, but I'm not interested. So that's the wellness of it. So combining the two, that's when you get great leaders. And willing and able to step in, convince people, and take a lead. Now, back to the point where the technical, a lot of people start with the technical piece of it. They can do their tasks every day, develop, put the code together or put the engine together, and they feel very good at it. And there's no another emotional or something to drive the will to move to the next step. I think, so that's legitimate. There's nothing wrong with that, but
Mm-hmm.
but this would limit a lot of growth opportunities. Staying in the technical piece, there's nothing wrong with that. You can live, you can make your paycheck, but there could be something in your personality that you could grow. So give yourself, my advice, give yourself a chance and step in and see where you can fit in the next level. Maybe you have great leadership skills, and you maybe just stepping in and be successful and grow more. So there's nothing wrong with staying technical, but except for losing opportunities to grow. Uh, so that's what my thoughts about its wellness and ability to take a lead.
Yeah, I think you've gotten right to the heart of it. A couple of times you've mentioned there's nothing wrong with it. Absolutely right. We talk about work-family self-balance. Combined with that, do you want to be a leader or do you want to be a technical professional? Some of that goes into it also. No rights or wrongs, just is. Whatever's right for you and your family, or whatever's right for me and my family, might not be the same two things. And as leaders, I struggled with this early in my leadership career, accepting that you didn't have to be me to be a success. I hope that doesn't come out wrong, but not everybody wants to be what we're doing, and absolutely accepted, absolutely valuable, and absolutely not judged for those decisions, because we need those people on our teams, And any program manager is going to need people on their team that doesn't want to be them, but still is very good at what they do. So one of the things you reminded me of is your response to mistakes, right? As a leader, how you respond to inevitable mistakes is very, very important. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I'll pass it over to you. You have a big, diverse team. I'm certain mistakes happen. What do you do when they happen? Talk to us through that.
Okay, so I mean, I lie to you if I say we've never done mistakes. So like that, so we all do mistakes, and we're not intending to do these mistakes. We always hope that our work delivers the best quality. But when this happens, my learning from experience, the best thing to do is immediately, if we can stop the bleeding, stop it, but communication. You have a client and they have expectations. And one of the crucial jobs for a program manager is set up expectations. So appropriately, immediately communicate appropriately with the channel. You have a processes. Each company, each leader, they have their own processes. They have their own scenarios where something happens. You need to communicate and who to communicate with. So communication is crucial because the leader above me may have some solution, and delaying that communication may, pass the opportunity for the solution to be effective. So communication, and in the going through that also, talk with the team. I talked with the team. We had a problem. I talked with the team, and they at least they have some band-aid that can stop up the bleeding for now. And I'm communicating with my company boss or the government boss, whoever that's involved in the situation, so we can first set up expectations. Second, get some guidance on where we need to head and fix the issue.
Yeah, thanks for that. Another component of that is mistakes are inevitable, and you're still welcome on the team. You're still part of the family because they are inevitable. And if you react too harshly, have the overreaction, you're going to drive good people away. I always chuckle. Many years ago, somebody you know very well, very successful in this world, hit the send button 30 seconds too late on a proposal that cost us millions of dollars. And the fact that that person is still successful to this day had a lot to do with our reaction to that, what was a pretty significant mistake. And so when you talked about a culture, it's not only a culture of success and celebrating those successes, it's a culture that this is your family, you're safe here, and there's opportunities for you to grow.
So through that, it's very exactly. So when the team feels comfortable and feels part of the family, it would be easier for them when there's a problem. They can come back and communicate if there's an issue. So part of the culture to allow that comfort zone where if there's an issue, the team would talk about it. So this is crucial. And again, it doesn't mean when mistake happens, it's inevitable. They didn't mean to make it. And I don't want to just like fire somebody just because of this, because it's harder to bring somebody new to the team and reestablish rather than learn from what we've done, learn from our own mistakes, and we're growing together. So
yeah. As we're wrapping up here, I wanted to talk about the work-family self-balance a little bit. I know you have a beautiful family, beautiful wife, beautiful daughters, and you vacation with them. You love traveling. What goes through your mind when you're planning that vacation and then when you're on your vacation? Because a lot of us who are leaders struggle with that. So I think it's a strength. So talk about how, to your peers, how you are able to do that.
Okay, so just like the job demands, the program demands, the stakeholder demands, I think the most important demand is the family. Because we work to live, we don't live to work.
Mm.
So you have to, a program manager, individual, you have to have the work family balance, the work family self balance, and 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 you have to, when you vacation, I mean, if if you can't vacation because you can't leave a job, there's something else.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to have enough delegation responsibilities, and you have to have a replacement that can take care of things. Because if you don't plan for this, you could go. I mean, sometimes I get sick. I need to go to the hospital. Who's going to do the job? If you don't have a plan, a contingency plan that applies not just for vacation but for anything else, this is not a successful leader. And
Yeah.
then you can utilize this plan for your vacation and family opportunities, because this is the recharge. You go with the family, they enjoy you, you enjoy the family, you're together, and then you come back recharged to work and you can do even better. So yeah, this has to be embedded, because life and work and family and personal life, it's all integrated together, and you have to manage them all together. So I think this is very important to the leader to be able to have this room, for the family.
Thank you for that. I like to think about your and my responsibilities as learning how to survive beyond heroic effort, right? When we're new in this field, or maybe perhaps when we were a little bit younger, we could do 20-hour days sustained, and even that's not good for you. But here we are, middle of life, if not a little bit later for me. I'm not slowing down, I'm not saying that, but I'm certainly learned over time how to survive beyond heroic effort, uh, and put some smartness in my work and put some smartness in my family, and then take care of myself. Because you have to do all three, or else you might show up at the finish line by yourself, or show up at the finish line without your health, neither of which are good.
Yeah, yeah. For program managers, especially those who manage complex programs, multiple programs, over time, always, every day, every task you do, think about efficiency. How you can
Mm.
how you can be more efficient when you do it next time. It should take less time and even better quality. Think efficiency. That's a huge advice. And you know, efficiency and quality, and how to upscale and deliver more in that same time, because the day is 24 hours, but some people can deliver, $10,000 worth value, and some people deliver $1 million worth value. I'm not talking about business money, but just evaluating the value. So you can talk about efficiencies and how to be scalable, to be able to manage complex, large programs in those only 24 hours. And by the way, 8 of them, or whatever, so many you need to sleep, and some other hours you need for the family. So this work time, efficiency, scalability as an individual, so you can still deliver the quality and the value and the skill that you can grow that way.
Great. So any wrap-up thoughts as we're wrapping up here? Last tidbits of advice for your fellow program managers, or your fellow senior leaders, or people who want to be program managers or senior leaders?
Okay, yeah. So thank you for this. So we are transitioning into a world of more digital. we're meeting digitally, unfortunately. Hopefully this is not going to last long, but our meeting all day long, you're on Zoom or Teams meeting with people. And everything, workflows, work, deliverables, everything's getting through SharePoints and networks. And so my advice, learn more about, be more capable to deal with a digital world, manage in a digital world. Hopefully, we're coming back very soon to our world, but the digital world is growing and taking over. So, and you said that one day, and I have the book still here.
Oh, yeah.
This is a great book, and this tells you if you're not digital, your organization or your going to die. So keep up with the dynamic world, and the new
Mm-hmm.
is becoming more digital. So the pandemic actually forced it, but it's not going anywhere. It was already going before the pandemic, and that was the direction before the pandemic. So this is an opportunity to think about, upgrading, get the certs you need, get the education you need to manage digitally. So that's my last.
Yeah, who is that? Mark Kelly that wrote that book?
Kevin Kelly.
Kevin Kelly, yeah. All right, thanks for that. I'm going to close right there because I couldn't beat that. That's great advice. Keep up with the times. That's a great book. I'm glad you recommended it. And thanks very much for your time, and I'll see you soon, my friend.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the opportunity. Glad that, spending time together.
Take care.